Hey, Faith Church family, greetings in the name of our King, Jesus. I hope that you are well, and I'm really excited to share this important update with you. Over the last few weeks, I've had several people ask something along the lines of, hey, what's it going to look like when you reopen your church? Or when are you going to be able to reopen your church? And if I can be a little bit nitpicky, or as the kids say, a little extra, I want to push back on the idea of reopening the church. You see, we never closed for business. We have suspended in-person gatherings for the last 7 weeks, but we've continued to move the mission forward. We've continued to worship King Jesus. We've continued to meet needs here in our community, and we've continued to support missionaries overseas. Because you've stayed engaged, because you've been generous, because you've jumped into discipleship groups, the mission has moved forward. And in some ways, God is doing more than we could have ever hoped or dreamed during this season. So thank you for staying engaged, for giving, for being generous, and for making discipleship a priority. I'm so thankful for how God has worked among you, and I'm so proud of you of how you've responded to the Lord's leading in this time. So we can't reopen the church because it never closed. The mission hasn't stopped. Now, a big part of what we do is gather in person to worship King Jesus, and we've been doing that online for the last 7 weeks. And just recently, Governor Holcomb announced that places of worship are welcome to gather in person with no limit on the number of people in their gatherings as long as they can maintain social distancing. Now, because of this, some of our sister churches in the community have decided to move forward with in-person gatherings as early as this weekend. And I sincerely pray that God blesses them, blesses their services, meets with them, and keeps all of them safe. And every pastor has had to make the decision about what is the best course of action for their congregation. And in Governor Holcomb's address, when he said that places of worship are welcome to gather again, he also added that he hopes that churches will do online worship as long as possible, and that pastors will do everything they can to keep their congregations safe. I've taken that responsibility very seriously. And I don't fault any churches that are deciding to worship this weekend, but we will not be moving as fast as they are. And I hesitate to even mention this because I don't want to be seen as disagreeing with other pastors who are moving forward faster than we are. I don't at all. Every one of them has a completely different set of scenarios and logistics to think through because they don't have our church body with our people, with our conditions, with our ages. They don't have our facility with our capacity. We have to figure out what's best for us. And so we're figuring out what's best for us and letting them figure out what's best for them, and we're not judging them. And I say that because I want you to do the same for other families. You're going to need to decide what's best for your family and allow other families to do the same. Some of you right now, if we gathered back together in person, you'd be excited to hug everyone. Others of you would tase anyone who tried to hug you. Right now, there are people that are very worried about this pandemic and other people who aren't afraid at all. And I just want us to show grace to one another, and I hope that our church will show grace to other churches that perhaps move on a different timeline than we do. I have taken it to be a personal responsibility as your shepherd to care for you physically and spiritually in this time. I'm used to caring for you spiritually and trying to guide you away from things that will be harmful to your soul, but I also feel a responsibility right now to guide you away from things that might be harmful to your body. And so I want to err on the side of caution. So we are incredibly excited to move back towards in-person gatherings, but we're going to progress along a path at a slow pace. We're going to ease back into our in-person gatherings. Now, it reminds me of in my parents' backyard back in Virginia, there's a stepstone path from the back door to the back gate. And if you were in a rush and you were running, you just took the grass. But to step on the stepstones, you had to be a little bit more intentional, and you had to kind of watch where you were stepping. And I think what we have laid out is a stepstone path that we can take intentionally, carefully, cautiously to move back towards having in-person gatherings. And as I share these stepping stones with you, you'll notice that none of them have dates attached to them. And the reason for that is just as soon as I announce these are the dates that we're going to take these steps, conditions will change and we'll have to change our whole plan. So I'm laying out a path of stepping stones that we can take at whatever speed we need to. And it may be that some steps move faster than others, or we have to take a step back because conditions have worsened. But know this, we're never going to take a step without letting you know. What we've hopefully done over these past 7 weeks is done a really good job of communicating with you over email, over text, over social media. We're going to continue to do that whenever it's time to move forward a stepping stone. So let me lay out these 5 stepping stones. The current stepping stone that we're on, what I'll refer to as stepping stone 1, is we're worshiping from home, and our worship team is leading us in worship from their homes. And a big thank you to our worship team who have recorded on cell phones and sent things over email. And a big thank you to all those who've helped me with editing and putting that together. I'm so thankful for the effort that you have put in. We'll continue to do that until it's time for stepping stone 2. Stepping stone 2, which I hope that we'll be able to move into soon, is that we will gather the worship team only in our gym with precautions in place, very spread apart, so that we can record the worship teams, small worship teams leading us in worship, record them together, and then use that to continue doing our online worship experience so that you can worship from home. Stepping stone 3, online worship would continue. The worship team would gather to record, and we would encourage you to, as much as your comfort level allows, welcome people to worship with you in your home. So invite your extended family over to watch the service with you, to worship with you in your home. Invite a coworker, a friend, a neighbor, maybe somebody that you're already in contact with already, to worship with you in your home as we continue to worship the Lord, though scattered across our community and neighborhoods. Stepping stone 4 would be that we would come back to meet in person in our facility, but with some changes. We would meet multiple service times in our gym, in chairs, separated. So we would have family units sitting together. There'd be no kids ministry. We'd keep everyone very distant from one another. So you'd be sitting with your family, and we would offer multiple service times. We don't know exactly what the times would be, how many services we would need to offer, but know that we will have all those details to you before it's time to take the stepping stone 4. Something that's important for me to note here. Some of you may not be ready to come back to in-person gatherings when we take that step to stepping stone 4. And know that we recognize that from this point forward, online worship is something that we should offer regularly. So we have been working to make it possible so that when we come back to in-person gatherings, we can simultaneously have in-person worship and online worship happening at the same time. And so we have applied for a grant from the Indiana Center for Congregations, and we just found out on Monday that we got it. A $5,000 grant is a huge blessing, and so we're purchasing technology needed to be able to not only have in-person gatherings, but stream online. So wherever we are at in these stepping stones, know that online worship will continue. And it might be that you're worshiping with us not because of the pandemic, but because of proximity. You're worshiping with us online, and that will continue no matter what happens with the pandemic. So stepping stone 4, we're meeting in the gym, multiple service times, no kids ministry, family seated together in chairs that we have separated far from one another, no hymnals, no offering plates, no coffee. And that would be stepping stone 4. And then stepping stone 5 would be we would move the congregation back into the sanctuary. We would resume kids ministry. And we will be back to what many of us consider our normal worship experiences in person. Now, I can't tell you how quickly or how slowly this is all going to move forward, but I can tell you that that's our plan. And while I cannot wait to be able to get back to you and gather in person, I wish I was sharing this with you face to face instead of with this camera once again. Know that we're going to move back to in-person gatherings as quickly as possible, but also as safely as possible. So we're not going to rush. And also, I don't want us to rush back to normal because I don't want us to come back to normal. I want us to come out of this on the other side different individually, different as families, different as a church. And I believe that God has something to teach us on this path. And so I hope that as we take these steps together, as we move from stepping stone to stepping stone, that we'll be gracious with one another and also we'll be open to what it is that the Lord desires to teach us. I can't wait to see you again. I'm so proud of how you are responding in this crisis. I'm so thankful for how God is working in your life. I'm so appreciative for your generosity. I can't wait to see what God is going to do next. God bless you. I love you. I hope to see you soon.